It's gonna be better with coffee. Here we go. My name is Clinton John Leon. People call me Siege because it's the shortest way to say CJL. Anyway, 2015 was the most productive year of my life. I put out 26 tracks and 15 videos. I developed really interesting ways of visualizing sound using mathematics and animation programs, ways that have never been done before. And I was inspired by the idea that dance music can be used to cure depression. It can be used to cure low motivation. Can be used to pick us up and make us feel better. Now, for many people, this is not a new concept. For me, being a depressed folk artist, to go from rather self-obsessed, depressed lyrics to socially motivated party anthems is a pretty big shift. Things used to be quite self-interested and life-questioning, death-oriented in a way. You know, things would sound like, "This year for my birthday, Lord, I think I'd like to die. I know you know the reasons, Lord, don't make me dwell on why." Now, I stand by the poetry of that, and I stand by the validity of that as human experience. It's something I was experiencing. But I felt I needed to be, as my mother was going through cancer, much more responsible about the energy I was putting into the world. Making the energy that I put into the world life-oriented, life-affirming. So I underwent some transformations. I stopped publishing for 2 years. That was a major one. While I shifted themes from introspection and existential angst to love and celebration. My mantra has been themes of love and celebration on bases of electronic funk. Over and over again, this has been my strategy. And that's resulted, I have a very abstract mind, so that's resulted in minimal techno, pop funk, rap, hip hop, R&B. Yeah, things that I consider abstract funk or deconstructed funk, disco, post-disco, a lot of things, electro house, things like that. To me, they're all deconstructed funk, but you know, when I put them out into the world, people call them different things. There's something really going on when you become socially interested. You believe that what you do has a social impact. Buckminster Fuller talked about this. He's a really interesting architect who has some chemicals named after him because in his paper about efficient housing, he suggested that some of the structures he made could be made with anything, including molecules or atoms. And some chemist thought this was super brilliant and decided to make the things he was talking about in atoms, in carbon atoms, and named him after the architect who had the idea, basically. Buckminster Fuller was a suicidal 30-year-old man on welfare when he realized that his depression could be cured if he focused on the problems of others, that his depression was very self-interested. He was questioning the validity of his own life. When he flipped his mental paradigm around to focus on the problems of others and what he could do to help others, his depression was cured, and he became a remarkably productive individual, a genius. He did. He is generally considered a great genius of the 20th century. What does this have to do with dance music? So, I have a melancholic songwriter friend in East Vancouver, Corbin Murdoch, who wanted to create happy music. And he ended up creating a somewhat melancholic sounding album about the future, saying that creating an album of happy music was kind of too much of a philosophical issue, maybe not even possible. Now, I was thinking at the same time of shifting my darkness, because of the health effects it was having on me, and is it even possible to shift darkness? It's like, who knows, but like, you've got to try and experiment with a few ways of living, I think, over the course of your life, hopefully. And when I set out to change and make positive, life-affirming music, I looked to the happiest music I could find, and the happiest music I could find was funk music. And the most energetic groups of people were listening to dance music. People were listening to music that was uplifting, inherently. Music that just made them happy when they heard it. And I started analyzing this kind of music. Now, funk is just an incredible resource of uplift, of people getting together and feeling good in a musical way, in a musical setting, coming together in a communal social sense and dancing and drinking and having a good time, partying. So I was looking at that, and I was looking at the current forms of it. That is beat music. Nearly everything in the dance realm is based on post-disco form. And analyzing what goes on when that happens, I think, is extremely informative and a major part of what that music does to relieve us of depression and awaken us. Now, there are several things that go into the sound of dance music that make it a cure for depression, physiologically speaking. There's a click every beat. It could be part of a snap, it could be a part of a word, it could be the beginning of a drum hit. One of my favorites is using Stardust from NASA samples. The click can be a lot of things, but the important thing is that it happens every beat. The click and the snare and the hi-hats even, they go into making us aware. A physiological thing happens when we hear a cracking like noise that is, especially on the snare in disco, dance music, rock and roll. We go down, we feel it. There's something that's going on there when we duck down. In fact, there's a physiological response. If you hear a crack, you duck your head, evolutionarily they say, so that you are less likely to injure your skull and neck. You're less likely to die if every time you hear you duck your head. We really get into those 2s and 4s, we drop on them, and in fact we're dropping in a physiological way to protect our neck and head from falling boulders or a sudden attack or whatever. That uplift of be awake, there's something going on, which keeps happening, is part of a greater framework which then puts the whole context into one of support. So for example, the kick comes in. The kick or of a dry kick or a bassy kick, it reminds us of the heartbeat we heard in the womb. It reminds us and is totally sympathetic with the feeling we get when we stomp our foot, when we, on the downbeat, a bass tone comes up through our body and we actually hear it internally. It's the pace of fast walking. So in dance music tempos like 125 to 135, we feel like we're jogging. And if you dance to that kind of music, you actually are. So if you want to be in time with it, you develop a dance rhythm which is active. You're physiologically active. Your heart rate is elevated to those similar levels of that range of 120 to 135. As your body moves, as your heart beats, you get up. It's representing a heightened physiological state. The music itself. The bass offers support. So now we have some life-affirming noise, whether it's your foot on the pavement or on the ground, or the beat of your mother's heart in the womb, or even the bedpost rocking, or on the downbeat, something very bassy is happening. You're hitting. You gotta hit it every beat. And then there's the bass. The bass offers a support for this whole structure, which makes it actually very positive. So you have these like very primal banging noises, the kicks, the snares, and the clicks. And then you get this warm bass. And this warm bass is totally uteral. It's totally like being inside a body. It's like being inside a womb of sound, a womb of bass. It's very supportive. It reverberates your chest. You feel warm from it. It gives a remarkable dopamine release. It makes you feel high itself. These elements go into making the sound both awakening and supportive. And then if you add, so dance music very often becomes pop music if you just add some vocals to it. It's like pop music, the best pop music is working with, the best beat makers and just like layering gorgeous vocals over top of the best beats, and you get pop music. That's what is going on. So if you focus then on themes of love and celebration, togetherness, life-affirming elements, are you having a good time? Hey baby, desire is a really motivating factor. So you suffuse the lyrics with togetherness, celebration, connection, and desire, and you have a formula for impressing yourself with something that is very wakeful on every beat or even between beats, multiply physiologically wakening, and empowering you to get to focus on images of society and desire, which also motivates your getting into society and doing things that help you to become socially connected to get what you want and need from the world. So those are some thoughts on dance music versus depression, and how, for me, dance music has been a remarkable tool to transform my negative thoughts, which I definitely still experience, into positive ones. Taking direct negative statements I think about, oh, I'm so isolated, oh, I'm working so hard for like no return, into like, well, I'm working with people that I've never worked with before, we're being inspired, we're being motivated, I'm putting out into the world faster than I ever have, and it's being received better than it ever has. These kinds of transformations are totally possible. And that's what's happening to me on a daily basis. You know, I had a friend who, when I was in Toronto, raised her hands in triumph when I said I still experience suicidal thoughts. The thing is, the suicidal thoughts have to do with isolation and feeling like your work, my work, is not reaching the world, that I have problems reaching the world, that I have problems just living in the world, getting food, shelter, maintaining myself. A lot of these dark existential thoughts have to do with necessities not being met or feeling like they won't be met. All of these things I can generally transmute into direct positive statements. There are positive ways of looking at things, and ways that, when you transform, then fit into pop music, and I put into pop music, and hope that people who are experiencing the exact negative counterparts to those positive statements will experience the substitution themselves, so that verbal substitution will act like cognitive behavioral therapy and actually substitute the negative thoughts and uplift. I know a lot of pop music seems to work on a formula like that, whether it's expressly stated or not. I am definitely expressly trying to do that for myself and for the people around me, for the people that hear what I do. Anyway, this has been a long video, hopefully interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on dance music, depression. One thing that comes up is like, what about 80s synth pop? I mean, there's a dark gamut of dance music, and is that really always relieving depression, or is it very also tied to the linguistic component? There's lots of things to think about here. But yeah, maybe a discussion will form. Siege, see you later.